city will be fine. Blowing up like dynamite, I never meant to make you cry.
Hello and welcome to your new weekly edition of This is Ibrox, your Rangers podcast. My name's Scott Paterson, and this week we're joined by our regulars, Thomas McIntyre, and welcome back to Willie Boyd. Hi guys, how you doing?
Fantastic, thanks. Good to be back. William, it's like the ghost of Christmas past there.
Just turning up when I want, I think, isn't I?
Well, listen, you're very welcome. We should say that we're pleased to announce that we are now being brought to you with our friends at the Insurance Practice, who are now offering services and the standard quotation services right across the board. They can be contacted on 01202 112 711 on the old phones, and you can also get them via email admin@theinsurancepractice.co.uk. That's that bit done. So, lots to speak about this week, and it's funny that Thomas mentions the sort of past, present and future. Very clever reference to the current climate we're in and looking forward to Christmas coming. We're going to talk about St Mirren last week very, very briefly, Motherwell over the weekend, and the three big games that are coming on the way very soon. We'll look at them individually and how they will take us to the 2nd of January and what Nick we're going to be. Tommy, St Mirren last week, great opportunity to progress towards a final that I think everyone thought we would be favourites to get to if we were to get there. Didn't quite happen, did it?
Didn't quite happen. Well, that's a good way to put that. And yeah, so okay, broadest extent of the question, the initial gut reaction is not again. It's a big chance. You know, we're blowing it. And I've said before, this team has won lots of plaudits. You can't polish plaudits, polish silverware. The game itself, subject to Steven Gerrard maybe making a couple of mistakes in terms of the personnel, which is why he held his hands up. And Rangers, we're going to have a blip at some point. It's fine. The problem for this Rangers team, and the real problem I think we're probably talking about, is that their blips seem to come when something's on the line.
Yeah.
You know, it's semi-finals, it's quarter-finals, it's big games, it's big moments. And the disappointing thing for me really was we didn't play well, and that's fine. We still got a goal. The goals we gave away were really, really poor, right? But I'm talking about us. We got ourselves back into it, got the equaliser right at the death, and I thought, oh, there's a mentality point right there. We kept going. We kept sticking by it. We've made some changes. We've got ourselves back in. And then you immediately concede again in you know, the 89th minute or whatever it was to blow the tie. Now, Rangers will not get a better run at a trophy. Yeah. And it could have been the first one of the season that ignites you for the rest of the league campaign as well. I appreciate, and I said myself, maybe on social media, that, you know, I'd have the blip in the cup as opposed to the league. But unfortunately, in the fire of people's consciousness, it's another log or a little bit of kindling. See what I've done there? It's Christmas and I like a log fire, so that's where I'm going right after this. It's another, you know, log onto the flames of this team can't hack it when the chips are down. And the only way they're going to silence that is by winning the league title. There you go.
Willie, you would have fancied us if we'd progressed past St Mirren. Looking at the teams that were left in the contest, you would have fancied us to get to another national final and go in there as favourites, wouldn't you?
Absolutely. I felt like it was like our best chance in God knows how long to go and put your name in the trophy and finally get that monkey off the back, so to speak. I mean, looking back in hindsight, it's obviously so disappointing, but as Tommy's kind of touched on there, all you kind of want at the end of the season is that league title. And when you're looking back, you're not really going to remember the kind of pain maybe you felt on Wednesday night.
So that's all we really want to cover about that, because I think it's been done to death sort of here and elsewhere. Everyone's got their own opinions on it. We largely agree that it was an opportunity lost. Onto the weekend just passed, and Rangers went into the tie at Ibrox, welcoming Motherwell. Very aware that because the team in second weren't playing this weekend in league duty, we had the opportunity to go 16 clear, which is quite a big gap. We know that there's games in hand. However, I think psychologically to have those points in the bag and get the games played is something that absolutely works in our favour. Boom. Rubbish start, Tommy.
Yeah, that probably does it about justice. And I appreciate everybody always says, you know, you're looking for a big reaction and you're looking for the players to get on the front foot and all that kind of stuff. And I think, is it Callum Lang sticks it in at the back post, 6 minutes in, 7 minutes in,
yeah,
around there something. And you know, if it's possible for an empty stadium to go eerily quiet, it's certainly that. You know, you could almost hear the booing, and certainly I was frustrated as well, because you were looking for us at Ibrox to use the expanse of the pitch, get in amongst Motherwell, and you know, create chances. And you know, I fall into that trap sometimes myself as well. So I'm not criticising anybody else listening to this podcast or watching it on YouTube or anything. In that, sometimes we forget to take into account the other team.
Yeah.
You know, and
Absolutely.
Motherwell came with a certain game plan, which by and large I don't think the early goal really changed that much. It was always going to be try and get something, and as soon as you've got it, sink your fingers knuckle deep in it, because you want to hold on to it for the rest of the game. And then it became, you know that way with your, you know, some of the younger people might not get this, but you used to get a brick wall and you paint goals on it.
You're showing your age now.
Oh, listen, I'm a lot older than that. I've been around since time immemorial, and you know, every Christmas they wheel me out and they wheel me back in. You know, just still waiting on that trophy. And so, you know, the point being, it was just 2 banks of 5. It was a horrible game to play in for a Motherwell perspective. I imagine if you're a player, particularly an offensive player, and I think RTB touched on this. Horrible for us to play against, but. And here's the better part of that story from the St Mirren game. Coming off the back of that defeat and come up against a team who were sitting really deep, we didn't lose patience. We didn't panic. We didn't start smacking it long. We worked our way into it, created chances, which kind of didn't take by and large for a part of the game. Kept going, get our late goals and our winner, etc. And for all those people who were being slightly more reactionary with Steven Gerrard, the tactical side of the game was on point, and the substitutions were on point. And we were talking off camera, so Scott, give your due here, since you're hosting. It's sometimes hard to get your point across. But Scott, you were quite rightly calling out that the substitutes in that game changed that game. Now I know, Kmar Roof gets 2 goals, but it's the substitutes who really turned the gas up a little bit. I have no idea why fire is on my mind so much. There's been a log fire kindling, and now we've got the gas going as well. But it's obviously cold here in the castle. But there was a very tactical story round about that as well, that the management team do know their jobs and can do it. And quite frankly, it's great to get 3 points against a team at come Ibrox and do that type of thing. The final bookend to that was just, it reminded me of, and I couldn't remember exactly the date. You guys might be able to help me. Hearts, remember them? And they came to Ibrox. I think it was under Walter Smith, and they played at Ibrox. They played essentially 10 men behind the ball, and Jorg Albert scored in like the 88th minute, 89th minute, and I remember Smith turning to Jim Jeffries and giving him dog's abuse on the sidelines for it as well. It was that type of thing where you get a real benefit of saying, you've come here and you've done nothing.
Yeah.
And we have taken the points out of your grasp. Get back to Motherwell with nothing in your paw, and we'll see you the other side of Christmas. I really, really enjoyed that. Really enjoyed it.
Well, I want to come back to you. Tommy's absolutely right. I agree with almost everything he says. I think just have to, don't you?
Almost. Damn almighty.
I want to speak to you about the first goal. One of the disappointing things from me has to be the fact that the ball crosses the width of the 18-yard box without any Rangers defender really getting there. It must be concerned from a point of view. We've seen the goals that we conceded against Liège, balls both coming in from the side. All of a sudden, we've lost another goal that seems to have travelled the length of the width of the box. Do you think that's something that they'll be working on a daily basis to try and eradicate and make sure it doesn't happen again?
Well, I hope they are, yeah. I think there's slight similarities with the Dundee United goal as well, whereas that ball's came right across
Absolutely.
The park. And I'm just wondering if maybe it's something to do with the tactics, because I've noticed when we're defending, Tav and Barisic are both in our 18-yard box, and we're very compact in there, which should be kind of ideal for defending, and it's probably the reason we haven't conceded as many goals. But I think maybe teams have spotted this and they've realised maybe they're not getting shut down quite as quick, and they're firing that ball over, catching us out, because I think the ball in is quite intelligent, because it's put in that kind of position where McGregor doesn't know whether to come for it. The defenders are kind of caught in their feet, and then the guy's running on it, easy tapping. you know, but it all comes, I feel like, the long throw. We've won the first header, nobody's reacted to the second, they've got back into the danger zone, and that's when they've put the cross in. Don't know if you remember that, but that's what happened, and that's kind of disappointing. We're usually winning these second balls as well. You know, with midfield.
It's amazing when a team comes to Ibrox. I remember when we travelled to Fir Park earlier on the season, and I thought that Motherwell they gave us a relatively decent game. We stepped up the gears a little bit in the second half. 10 scoring 2 goals, one of which was an absolute cracker. But I actually thought that they gave us a relatively decent game at their place. Tommy, for them to come and just go with a low block of 2 sets of 5 was pretty embarrassing for a top league.
Yeah, I mean, and I firmly understand why Stephen Robinson would do it, right? Each manager gets to make their own decisions. It would have been a horrible watch for the Motherwell fans, horrible game to play in for the Motherwell players.
Yeah.
And then it would have been pretty horrible for Rangers to play against as well. But, you know, they're setting up shop to be defensive, right? Hey, I gloried in a UEFA Cup run under Walter Smith. We know what it's like to play counter-attacking football. There is absolutely nothing wrong with it, right? And I'm certainly not going to fall down the trap that's later on in this conversation of anti-football, right? There's no such thing as anti-football. There we go, right? So I get it, but to come out so brutally obviously about we don't want to play. I mean, at one point, a really good example of this, actually, it saved me wittering on, right? But a really good example is I think it was like 15 minutes in at one point, and one of their defenders on 2 separate occasions within the space of 30 seconds just booted it long, like you do like, with a minute to go type of thing. You're doing that from like 10 minutes in, and you're thinking, hold on, have I fallen asleep? And I've woken up and it's the 90th minute or something like that. And you think, and that's where it felt so good to get something out of this type of game, because you know, Motherwell came. It was pretty embarrassing to get to your point, but you know, trying to be balanced for that. Motherwell aren't in a great position, right? As it is, if they lose the appeal against the 6 points, they're going to be in a terrible, terrible position. Indeed, and that looked like the actions of a manager who maybe knows his job isn't as secure as he would like to think. So he's looking about and thinking, if I could even get a point here at Ibrox, that's dynamite. And he would have gone into those last 20 minutes or whatever thinking, oh, come on, just hold on, lads, that's my Christmas sorted.
Yeah.
Oh, well, okay. And then the roof caved in.
Oh, I like it. That was good, wasn't it? That was good.
Thank you.
Well, we'll come back to that. Willie, I'm going to stay with you. On 70 minutes, how nervous are you as a Rangers supporter?
I don't think I had any fingernails left, to be totally honest with you. So I think I was frying all your heads in the WhatsApp. This is just like Wednesday. But as usual, I jinx it, well, in a good way, and we end up getting that goal, don't we? So always kind of, the nerves started kind of going away. You kind of seen us, just going back to how we were playing, I think it was in the first half as well, I noticed that Goldson and Hollander must have been about 40 yards for their goal, you know what I mean? It was incredible just how deep Motherwell really were, and we were in control, total control. Even despite being 1-0 down, but it was just whether we were going to find that kind of that breakthrough that maybe last season and the season before we couldn't find. This season, as you've touched on, the managers went to the bench, brought players on who've ultimately, changed the game for the better of us.
If I could just jump in, just one addition to that, because I was thinking about, we've transferred through the St Mirren game and the Motherwell game, right? And so you get 2 polar opposite of results there going out of a cup. Well, actually, you could extend it a wee bit further back. Going through in Europe, topping the group, then going out of a cup, and then winning in the league again to go 16 points clear or whatever. And I was trying to think of a reasonable way to say it in my own mind, but it's like the old maths problem. I'm engineering, and I'll say maths because I'm not American. So that's okay. So it's not math, but it's whether you're looking at a circle on the ground or a cylinder, and the only answer is perspective.
Yep.
So are you looking at a season-defining defeat or a season-defining victory? And on this occasion, I'm going to look at the cylinder side, which is the positive, in my opinion, right? Which is Rangers have had that bad result, and unlike coming out the back of, let's say, Dubai, etc., last season or whatever, right? They have, much like they took advantage of Celtic's slip-ups, you know, in the Aberdeen game and stuff like that. Rangers have come off the back of a really damaging defeat, a really PR disastrous defeat, so to speak, right? And they've then got a victory against a really difficult team who set up to say, you've had a tough week, we've got an early goal, come and do it. So I'll say it's a season-defining victory. And I know that's a really strange position for me to take as a positive, right? But ho, 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 it's Christmas, right? Yuletide, Saturnalia, all that good stuff, right? But that's how I'm going to look at it. But I just wanted to make the perspective point there.
Yeah.
And the cylinder kind of circle thing is what I'm used to from old maths, I should say, perspective. So, there we go. I just wanted to get that point on.
So, Tom, I'm going to speak to you again about the substitutions that Steven Gerrard made. So, he obviously took off Kamara at half-time, which surprised me because Kamara is someone he rates very highly. For him to come off at half-time would suggest that maybe he was a wee niggle there, or he just wasn't cutting it. I didn't think he had a particularly poor first half. I was surprised he came off. Joe Aribo come in, and I thought he was excellent in the second half. I thought he was really, really good. Game changer in many ways.
Yeah, absolutely. And I agree with everything you just said there in terms of Kamara and Aribo. And the only thing I'd probably maybe not take a position on is I don't think it was any sort of niggle or anything like that. I think it's just for all these very valuable benefits that he brings to the team in terms of reading the game at the back and being in tight space, etc. Being in tight spaces is a slightly different way to Joe Aribo. I'll touch on that in a moment. But Glenn Kamara isn't the guy who's going to unlock that difficult packed defence.
Absolutely.
So it's not a negative to him. But we didn't have to have another guy reading the game in the middle of the park because we weren't getting attacked. Right, so you don't need that extra defensive barrier. You've spoken about this, William. I've spoken about it. You know, we've mentioned the box. I think I remember you speaking about it at length at one point, one of our episodes, Scott. Quite rightly so. In terms of you didn't need that extra protection. For exactly what William's saying, they're two central defensive midfielders where Philip Helland and Connor Goldson.
Yeah,
right?
they were,
so,
absolutely, yeah.
With McGregor playing sweeper, right? N'Golo Kante when he wasn't complaining of cramp, but. N'Golo Krampe. There you go, N'Golo Krampe. And I can even tie that to Christmas and say Krampus, but there we are. Right? So I'm going to sweep over the top of all this. I've drunk some out of date eggnog or something like that this time, so I'm barely straight. Anyway, getting back to the circular point here, circles and cylinders and all that kind of nonsense, right? So boxes. I'm just going through all the kind of shapes that you find on a Word document.
What an education you get, Willie, here. It's just incredible. It really is.
I've learned about engineering and everything so far.
It's like a shite playbus.
All you need to know about engineering is try and solve a non-Newtonian solid. Right? If you solve that, you're the world's greatest engineer. Right? It's as simple as that. Anyway. Answers in the comments of what a non-Newtonian solid is. Right?
I'm glad I didn't ask. Like as in I don't know.
When can things both be solid and liquid and all that kind of stuff? Anyway, right. So it's neither here nor there. It's like your title challenge. It's really fluid at the moment, but it's not solidified. So there we go. We're way off track. Edit all this.
Way off track.
All of this.
Agenda's out the window.
I'm obviously having some sort of Christmas-related breakdown here, right? So anyway. Right, so I can't remember what it was. Yeah, so I don't think you needed Glenn Kamara to provide that defensive bulwark because we weren't really under any stress or pressure on that, right? And I remember, I think Robinson took off Tony Watt and stuff like that as well, and then they put a big boy up front towards the end. But it wasn't really a problem for us. What we needed was different type of technical ability and fast feet and taking the ball in tight areas in that final third. And that's a natural replacement to bring in Joe Aribo, who does have a part to play in the goals as well, and gives people problems and can shift his balance amazingly well. So that's all I thought. In the widest extent, I know William's going to touch on this, but in the widest extent, the substitutions absolutely changed the flow of that game from we'll keep going, but it's frustrating to now we're in amongst the chinks.
Can do something.
I would just also say as well what they were helped with is the relentless pressure that Rangers put on throughout the game. So that final 20 minutes, those Motherwell boys would have been feeling that in their legs and in their minds, and it started to show.
Willie, you referred to the This Is Ibrox WhatsApp group chat that we have. Lots and lots of banter, a lot of which we can't speak about here to be perfectly frank. However, you have been quite critical of Yanis Jhajji when he's been used this season, and I think quite rightly so. He's not been sort of pulling up trees by any matter of means when he's been included. However, I have to say, when he came on at the weekend, he was excellent and looks hungry and really willing to dig in and help the team at a really critical stage now.
Absolutely. I think everybody gets it on, in the WhatsApp group for me, to be totally honest. I forget what I'm saying half the time, but he has clear ability. I just think he kind of lacks that pace sometimes. I think you need to kind of get in behind teams and kind of get that wee bit extra flair on. But sometimes I just feel like he's, I don't know, it looks like he's kind of took a slight hop. Just to me, it seems like he takes a slight kind of sort of off. He's not in the game, he's not getting involved as much, but I mean, he came on and Saturday, he changed the game, he wanted the ball. His energy was really good. It was similar, to the Fall Cup game. I felt like he had one of his best games in a long time against Fall Cup. I know you can't really take too much from that, but it was his energy levels off the ball that I was impressed with, as well. Like, I'm just rambling now, but just kind of get, he's got the pass that can get us in behind the teams, and that's what we needed, on Saturday.
I thought when he came on, he really gave us a dimension I didn't think we had in the game before. I thought he offered a lot that we kind of huffed and puffed almost a little bit up until he came on, I felt. Aribo maybe offered us something, Tommy, as you suggested, that we didn't have at that point. I completely agree with that. I just felt that Jhajji gave us that key to almost unlock a little bit more behind that Motherwell sort of rigid back five. Don't know if you agree with that, Thomas.
Well, I do. I thought Jhajji played well, and I slightly disagree with William to an extent. I'm not entirely convinced that I've seen any drop off in the boys' application. I know it was a small cameo, but I thought he also put himself about, tried really hard for that 7-8 minutes that he came on in the St Mirren game as well.
Yeah,
that's one of the things I like about Jhajji. I don't think he's went missing. That's my words, William, not yours. Obviously, I know he never said missing, but I don't want to inappropriately quote you there. But I think his application is absolutely fine. The longer he stays out the team, the more difficult it is to come back in, though. But no, I'm quite comfortable with that. It's not happening for the boy. Although, to your point, Scott, I thought that he came off the bench and really did make a difference, because the nexus of all those things, you had maybe slightly more defensive-minded players in Glenn Kamara, etc., disappearing, and then you were bringing on more offensive technical players. And Joe Aribo gets into space, can create pockets of space because he can go by 2 or 3 people. One of Jhajji's strengths, although I do agree with William, he doesn't have the pace. I think we all know that now. Yeah. But one of his strengths is he drops himself into really interesting areas, and he was pulling players with him. So all of a sudden you start to look at, and I know we'll talk about Cedric Itten in a minute as well, but you're starting to look at, if I just loop him in for a second, Itten's running into the chant. Remember, this is last 20-minute kind of stuff, right? When tired minds, tired legs, tired shapes and all that, right? But you've got Itten running, you've got Aribo running, creating space, you've got Jhajji creating space, you get the killer movement of Kemar Roof in there. All of a sudden, gaps started to appear in what had been a pretty solid defensive performance from Motherwell, it has to be said. Right?
Indeed.
And then I think all those points coming together is exactly where they are. I think Jhajji absolutely did his job. The problem he has right now is, 1, he has to force someone out the team, and 2, he then has to do it consistently, and that's probably been his problem.
Tommy, I'm going to stay with you just because you brought Etienne up. Said the Ted really is. He looks a really good player. I think we've seen flashes since he arrived in the summer, and we've seen a lot of good things about him. We've seen a lot of things that are undoubtedly raw, and I think Steven Gerrard's been quite quick to point that out. However, he gives us a dimension up front that I don't think Morelos, Roof, Defoe do indeed give us. Again, and very similar to Jhajji and Aribo, I thought he was excellent at the weekend and really had a part to play in the second half and changing the game in our favour.
It absolutely, stick on there. I think we are starting to slowly see the best of said the Ted. There you go, I'm going to steal that copyright, Scott Paterson. So
And maybe copyright someone else, to be fair, I don't know.
Too late. That's the public forum. It's done. That's it. Copyrighted. So contact this Ibrox lawyers. But yeah, I think we are starting to see the best of, you know, the goal in Poznan, for example, as well. He took a couple of goals against Motherwell earlier in the season. It's about getting consistency and getting runs and forcing yourself into the team. But can he be relied on to come off the bench and do something? Well, it certainly seems as though he's getting a grip of that now. Yeah. He's got the power and the pace, which I'm quite happy to see. Doesn't mind putting it about a bit. His touch seems to have gotten a lot better. I mean, I think the first time I saw him, is this just bouncing off this guy? Yeah. You know, is he Swedish Bo Anderson? And that doesn't mean that I don't like Erik Bo Anderson, by the way. But you know, it just seemed that way. But now he seems like a lot more composed and comfortable and confident. He's running into the channels is great. His movement is better in the box than I think I first thought.
Yep. And
he's positioned well for, obviously, you know, getting us to 2-1, which is the big moment, because it's no longer just a point and Motherwell go, well, are we going to get anything out of the ordinary here? We're going to have to play a wee bit. And they did have one or two wee kind of half chances after that, it has to be said. But actually, I mean, I'm really happy about the goal, and that's brilliant. It's the moment of the game for Cedric Itten, but also the time wasting in the corner flag before we got the third. Him and Jhajji, and I think it's Amibo as well, just literally taking the mickey out of about 4 or 5 Motherwell players was dynamic to see. And also his awareness, because at one point he goes to him and he does a wee bit of a kind of cross turn and he gets by and he goes into the box, but there's nobody there to hit by and large. So he just turns back round, goes by the guy again, and then passes back in. You think that's quite nice awareness as well. Just run the clock down, lads. We don't need to do anything here. But I think we are getting to see the best of him.
He's kind of, in that sense, Thomas, he's shown an element of maturity, and Steven Gerrard's been quite quick to big up game management, and indeed times where we've not done that properly. I think that's a really good example of how he has managed to do that at the weekend in our favour for a change.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I'll stop waxing lyrical in a second, but a really good example. It's a bit clunky, right? And I'm not blaming anybody for this, but third goal we conceded away in Benfica, away in Portugal, came from us. Last 2 minutes of the game, whatever, trying to play a forward ball into Morelos when we didn't have to. It gets taken off as a straight through pass. We catch the 2 centre backs out, and all of a sudden it's 3 each.
Yeah.
Turn round, you play it back, you let everybody just settle in the ball, you play it out. There was us. Really tough game mentally and physically for us. We've broken them down. It's now 2-1 us. Aye, we don't need to chase for a third. We end up obviously getting it, but we don't need to chase it here. Hold on to the ball, we can't be hurt. That's a really good lesson I've learned.
Willie, Ryan Kent and Kemar Roof at the weekend, both I think had games that were entirely different. I didn't think Kent played that great. He was okay. I thought Roof's movement in and around the game for the duration of the game before he scored was really, really, really impressive. Got 2 guys there that are playing at different levels of their expectations, I think, just now. You've got Roof, who is absolutely pulling up trees, and Kent, who seems to be hitting a wee bit of lull in form. I don't know if you agree with that.
No, I did to an extent, yeah, but I was trying to watch a game and I was reading things on the internet where people were saying I would take Kent off and stuff, but I didn't feel like there were really anybody that could come on and play that kind of left-hand side the way he does.
Yeah.
I did think, even though he wasn't having, the best game, constantly going by players and stuff, I do feel like he was constantly trying to go by them, even though he wasn't maybe getting it all the time. He was always making the right back think, right, he's going this way, no, he's coming back inside. He was kind of causing issues in that sense, but you want him to come and start, bringing that early season form that he had, where he was, chipping in with the goals, chipping in with the assists. I think, sometimes his play doesn't really get like the credit it deserves, because he's maybe a few kind of bits back in the, in play, like the third, fourth pass into a potential goal. I think it was for Roof's first goal. I think Ken actually wins the ball, puts the pressure on the right back. Yeah. It was Adorno, and we ended up getting in, and Roof scored the in the box kind of penalty striker goal, and just touching on Roof now. His second goal, he's just found that kind of like a Chris Boyd kind of being in that position to just turn and put the ball in the net. Both his goals were really identical, I felt, on Saturday.
Tommy, on Kemar Roof, his first goal, I've watched it a couple of times. He did something that I remember as I was growing up, and you're watching footballers talk on the telly about other footballers, namely strikers, that are taking efforts that are almost, the balls are landing behind them, and they're moving their body and they're arching their body to get a right good connection to it, and they're thrashing that in beyond the goalkeeper. Kemar Roof done that for his first goal at the weekend. I think we're seeing the fruits of him arriving at the club. 8 goals already for Rangers. He must be quite happy with his payback to us, if you like, so far.
Definitely, and big goals as well.
Yeah.
It's the first, and if I put the third one to one side, or his second against Motherwell, third goal for Rangers to one side, getting in the opener, taking that chance, that was a big moment because we needed to unlock them.
Yeah,
I think you're right. It's great technique, to get across. It's great
absolutely
technique for the third one as well. I think we are seeing the finishing ability getting sharper and sharper and sharper. I don't think there's any doubts that actually once he gets, I still think there's maybe just a wee bit of getting to full fitness for Kemar as well. I still think he's maybe just a week or two behind, but that's not me having a go at him in any shape or form. But I think we're starting to see all the points you're talking about there. The finishing ability getting sharper, the movement getting sharper. There's no doubts he's a very, very, very intelligent player. And in terms of that intelligence, he might, if he continues on that way, he turns into what I think he's going to rival Joe Aribo and Jhajji in my mind as being that. I don't think he's maybe he is technically on their level as well in terms of playing the passes. I think his intelligence has caught a couple of people out.
Yeah,
in our squad as well, sometimes up front. But there seems to be a greater understanding. People know what they want. What I like about him as well is he just keeps going. And it sounds a bit of a cliche, and I always try and stay away from cliches when I'm talking about anything. But he's a striker that can score all the types of goals. Yeah,
that's very cliche, Thomas.
As I know, I'm going to ring the cliche bell, but in my defence, both of you said nobody's pulling up trees, and I didn't jump in and say Christmas at any point in time. So,
I think I've said it twice already in the pod as well, which is pretty poor.
Exactly. So Christmas is cancelled for you too. But there we are. But yeah, he's done the amazing in Liège. He's done the technical movement in a packed box against Motherwell, and he's done the he's done the against Kilmarnock and stuff like that as well. He's done the kind of inside the box rudimentary stuff as well that he expects from a Rangers striker. So, and I'm kind of boxing all that in, but I know all these goals take time and effort and all that kind of stuff. But he's shown all those facets, and there's nothing that he doesn't have to his game, which is really good to see. He also, much like you were saying about Itten, Scott, he offers something totally different. He's not Morelos, he's not an Itten, he's not a Defoe, and none of them are anybody else. It's almost like the four of them were put together as a plan. Yeah. So the 4 bits of the forward line Rangers jigsaw puzzle look pretty good at this point in time. Long may it continue.
Just to jump in here, sorry, if I'm going to steal the next question, but
What's
see if you're Morelos just sitting in the bench and you're seeing it in Roof banging in goals, maybe we'll start to see the Morelos getting back in amongst the goals, with maybe getting that bit of competition that he's maybe not had for a wee while.
Well, funnily enough, and just by magic, Morelos was going to be the next subject. And if anyone is watching this is not pre-rehearsed by any way, matter or means. It's just the way it works. Willie, I was going to ask, obviously we've missed Alfredo the last 2 games due to this made-up suspension that they decided to go with this time around. You're absolutely right. I agree. If he is sitting on the sidelines and he's looking at the guys up front in his position scoring, and getting good plaudits from supporters like ourselves, and he's not been having a great deal of joy in front of goal, and clearly isn't happy about it. But you wouldn't be, to be perfectly honest. I wonder if Gerrard maybe takes Alfredo Morelos out of the firing line, perhaps up to the Celtic game, just to give him some time to pull his heels in, get himself together, and release him on the 2nd of January. I don't know if you think that there's they can certainly do that. They can rest him. They can give him time to get him back to a fully fit Alfredo Morelos, Willie, which would be far beneficial than one that's just treading water a little bit.
Absolutely. I think if I was Gerrard, I think I'd be starting the team that ended the game potentially against Motherwell.
Yeah.
Maybe see him kind of get the last 30 minutes, depending on how the game's going, on Wednesday, I think it is.
Yeah.
Up in Perth. So, I mean, because anytime I remember watching these games up in Perth, they seem to be like battles and just hard slogs. I don't know what you guys think on that, but I think Morelos maybe suit that a wee bit. Coming on off the bench and kind of helping us kind of get over the line, kind of.
Tommy, one thing I think Morelos has shown this season, and we've spoke about it on the pod before, is that by almost losing that hustle and bustle up front, and the goals almost that we seem to have rather dried up with Alfredo, he's managed to add a different perspective to his game by dropping into almost a number 10 position, which means that we lose him from up top. I don't think that Gerrard will have to just drop him into the starting lineup on Wednesday in Perth, to be perfectly honest with you, purely on the back of how good Etienne and Roof played on Saturday past.
I'm inclined to agree with that and with what William was saying. So you kind of look at it in me, I like to look at things in component parts and all that. There was a time when we relied on Alfredo Morelos, and against St Mirren, it looked like we were back to a one-man team. Broadest extent here, right? Where you take him out and all of a sudden it doesn't quite work.
Yeah.
Do you really have the challenge for places that you were thinking you did? Hence why the Motherwell game was so important, and the goals coming from your forward line. Really good for it and really good for Roof. Does Morelos come immediately back in? Only on a rotation basis, because yes, I like the fact he's added all things to his games, right? And that's really good, but I also want to see Alfredo Morelos scoring, and Alfredo Morelos wants to see Alfredo Morelos scoring, and his transfer value wants to see Alfredo Morelos scoring as well in the big games, hence why Poznan was really important. Well, Lech at Ibrox, I should say. But they've tried up for him. It's not for lack of effort. I think he's a wee bit lacking in confidence. A couple of chances that he would have taken the first time or whatever that just aren't coming off for him. But does he go straight back in the team? I don't think he does. And does he, is he saved for the Old Firm game? I'm not entirely convinced he is either. And I do think that whilst just to flesh that out a little bit, because the forward line's scoring and they're getting goals and there's confidence and all that. Also, you need to be careful what message you're sending to people. Yep. And also, he did, although it's a bit of a trumped up one in terms of retrospective and all that kind of, re-refereeing games. And I know there was some background to it because I think the boy from Dundee United he was the one that tried to half Alfie Ibrox.
Yep.
Like gash in his leg. So there's a wee bit of afters there and a wee bit of trying to get it back. Though Morelos was clunky about it, and that was a red card for me. Right? He's thrown his elbow the first time, you can get away with that. He then tries to, go the larger one. So that puts the question right back into Steven Gerrard's mind. Now, I'm not going to say that's the Alfredo Morelos, because we all know he's worked really hard on that, and it's amazing, right? And he was demonised to begin with. But if you get into the Old Firm game, an Old Firm game where you want to beat them for a specific reason other than just beating them, which is, I think that's a pretty big coffin nail. If all the results go in the lead up to it, if you come out of that by putting another 3 points on top of their, 3 bags of soil on top of their grave, then I'm pretty comfortable with that. And is Alfredo Morelos the man to go with it, or do you go with form? There you go. And form is Cedric Itten, Kmart Roof.
Yep, agreed.
Right, that's my answer. And that's not to say that Alfredo Morelos won't play a really important part in Rangers' season, but something will have to change. And it is a couple of games away. I do get that.
Tommy, we've had mentality levelled at us quite a bit, I would say, the last 10 days. Rightly so, off the back of the St Mirren match. And I think everyone expected us to maybe crumble a little bit against the Motherwell at the weekend. We didn't do that. We're now 16 points clear, as I led with at the start of the pod. How do you think the mentality is at Rangers within these players? Do you think the St Mirren tie just goes down to a blip, just a game where we just weren't at it, and we can just put it to bed? Or do you think it's going to be something greater than that? I'm quite relaxed about it, I have to be honest. It's disappointing to of course, not get further in a competition to lift a trophy, because we all want to see Rangers lifting trophies. We want our kids to see Rangers lifting trophies. We want to see that. If we're sort of saying that we don't win the League Cup, but we do win the league, I'll have that sort of mentality every day of the week.
I think you know my position on that type of thing. You can melt down all the other trophies and make them a stand for the league, the league trophy. Yeah, listen, again, we come back to that perspective piece, which is, did Rangers blow a really good chance? Yeah, well, unequivocally they did. And did they surprise people by having a terrible night? Yes, they really did. Yeah. Was Steven Gerrard and the players open to criticism because of one performance and two, some of the rotation decisions that Steven Gerrard made? Yes. Doesn't leave a question mark about mentality, because they've not been able to get to where they were absolutely expected to get to, right? And it's one of those defining moments of, it's a trophy, you're in the hunt, Celtic out and all that kind of stuff. So quite rightly, people were criticising them, and quite rightly, people are still angry about it.
Yep.
Then you play the second part of the perspective that you've touched on, which is where my mind is now kind of went to after the game, which is, okay, that's done. And I sensed more anger from the players than sadness, which is probably a good thing. I felt they knew they'd let themselves down for once, as opposed to the woe is me, which I think I sensed a little bit after the 1-0 Aberdeen game at Hampden. A little bit of, didn't go our way.
By us. Yeah.
Exactly. Whereas after this one, it was, we've blown that, so let's do something about it.
Agreed.
And that's where I think the narrative and the psychology and all the behaviours and all that kind of good headline grabbing content comes into the play, because you then set up a game right after that. So you're questioning mentality, etc. And by no means, shape or form, I just want to bookend this, right? I am never happy if Rangers go out of a trophy. Like, never, right? I'm just trying to square in the box, right? So that's happened, and then you cycle into tons of criticism of mentality, quite rightly, tons of questioning, quite rightly, tons of focus, quite rightly. Right? Are they just having their Dubai early? Right?
Yeah.
Right? Bring the Middle East to Scotland, not the other way about. So, but then you cycle into the specific game, which couldn't have been set up any better to test that, which was Motherwell come with a game plan to walk away with a point, would have made them a champagne moment, right?
Yeah.
However, they get a goal within 6 minutes, and then they say, come and break us down. And for, I think, 73 minutes.
Yeah.
We can't break them down. We don't take the chances. We don't get any luck. We don't get there. So the pressure's ramped up. You went out of a cup. You could end up eroding your own thing. Christmas is just there. Your old firm coming up. The papers are on you. Everything right. There's silence from the stands. There's nobody rolling you on. And there's nobody booing you as well. Right. Probably a good thing. But then you get into that. Keep going. Stick to the principles. Play football. Make the tactical changes. Trust in your squad and your compatriots. All of a sudden you're 3-1 up and you're saying, that couldn't have been any tougher. And we went to it. We went to the well and we came back with 3 points.
Yeah.
And by going to the well, by the way, I mean, don't go away to Motherwell. I mean, go to the well. Right? But I know somebody will have a go at me saying it was a home game, Tommy. Right? But go to the well. So then you get to turn around at that end of that perspective cylinder that I was talking about. And you say, hold on a minute. Is that a good news story or is it a bad news story? Is it a season-defining defeat or a season and squad-defining success? And I'm going to go with success because I think it would have been really easy for that squad of players to go, wasn't it your night in Paisley? This is the other night either. It's okay, we've still got a healthy cushion in the league. Come off the gas, lads. No, they kept going. They kept going. They kept going. And we chip enough away at a wall, you'll end up making a hole in it. And that's what we did. 3 points. We move on to St Johnstone on Wednesday night. Good news story.
Willie, the next 3 games are St Johnstone at Perth on Wednesday, Boxing Day tie against Hibs at home, and then St Mirren back to St Mirren the following week. I don't know if it's a Tuesday or the Wednesday. I think it might be the Wednesday night that we're back in Paisley. Without looking too far ahead to these games, I think it's critically important at this stage of the season where we are, and we're approaching the dreaded January, which no one really understands why it's dreaded, but we're shitting ourselves for it, to be perfectly honest. There's 9 points that are up for grabs these 3 games. If we were to take maximum points, it would put us into a really, really steady position, welcoming our friends from across the city to Ibrox on the 2nd of January.
Oh, absolutely would, yeah. It'd set us up nicely going into that, with the 16 points still clear. I think also was it the Hibs game. I think we kick off earlier on that particular day, so we've got a chance to put the 19 points on the board. Do you know what I mean? Put an extra bit of pressure on them as well, because that's not psychological to see how they deal with it. They've not been in a situation like that in how long? Do you know what I mean? So we just need to kind of hopefully see us over the line, get the 9 points, and go into that all guns blazing.
Tommy, I want to speak to you a little bit about, and we didn't discuss this, so this is completely ad lib. I've seen bits and pieces on social media since the start of the weekend that the game on Wednesday night is on St Johnstone Club television. Now, I don't know if this is true, so I apologise if I'm incorrect, but apparently they're charging over £17 for supporters to go on and watch this game. Current climate, it better be like watching something in the cinema house just along the road from me with crystal clear vision. And I'll tell you one thing right now, the coverage will not be as good as Rangers TV. I think we agree with that. But my own personal opinion is that it's really taking the piss out of fans at a really rubbish time of the season to be taking the piss out of them, to be perfectly frank.
You're absolutely right, and we didn't touch on this, and it's a scandal. Let's be quite honest. I think it's £17.50.
Shocking. Absolutely disgusting.
Yeah, which will be what, the 23rd of December. £17.50 to watch an away game. You're absolutely right. The quality of the coverage will be nowhere near what our TV is doing.
And that's not a slur on whoever St Johnstone TV have out. Rangers TV this season has been absolutely first class. With Neil McCann and Shelley Kerr at the weekend in particular, what I thought continue to impress every time they're on the telly. Emma Dodds is a wonderful anchor person there every time they're on the telly. St Johnstone won't beat that. I don't care what anyone says, they just won't beat it.
I didn't hear a word after Neil McCann, to be honest with you. The feelings on the bold Neil are quite, although, yeah, I'm a massive fan of Shelley Kerr and a massive fan of Emma Dodds, but I'll pay the money just to listen to Neil talking away, to be honest with you. So Neil, if you're out there, where's my Christmas card? Let's edit that bit as well. Actually, so cycling on a little bit. No, you're absolutely right. It's no derogation to the people who'll be in the chair for St Johnstone television. But it's not going to be in there, and it's quite clearly a cash grab. So £17.50 because they know it's Rangers fans, right? This speaks back to all the old skeletons that will come out the closet, or Christmas ghosts that will rattle their chains or whatever, right? Which is they hated us and took chances to knock us down, but when the wallets start opening, Sporting Integrity takes the back seat and cash takes first. So St Johnstone could have been smart about this. What they could have said was, we will be charging at a reasonable rate, £10 or something like that, right? Put it on based on other providers like Premier Sports or something like that, right? You charge, what is it, $11.99 a month, right? Yep. Johnstone could have done something similar. They'd have probably got a reasonable reaction, because they could have then said, oh, we'll bring in somebody who's a bit more Rangers kind of sided, and it'll be a bit interesting, absolutely, right? Yeah. Because we know it's Christmas, we know it's a pandemic, all that kind of stuff, right? And I get that the money men have won at St Johnstone because they just say, right, chance to get the Rangers blue pound in here. Absolutely. All they're going to do now is create rancour, which they have done, create a spotlight on them, which they have done, turn people away from, unfortunately, purchasing it legitimately, which they have done, and force people into using less than legitimate streams. So, in terms of business model and backfiring, St Johnstone's Ratner's moment, because nobody's paying for that to watch St Johnstone. Best of luck to the guys, right? And the men and women, aligned to St Johnstone, but nobody's doing that. So what they're essentially saying is, we get a chance to rattle £17.50 because it's Rangers. So the blue wallet rolls into town, or doesn't roll into town because it's different tiers, but you know what I mean? Yep. Let's just try and get whatever we can to fill their own stockings. Absolute shambles for a Premiership club. They should be rightly hounded for it. They won't be, right, by anybody but Rangers fans. Rangers should have probably made some sort of comment on it. If they haven't, if they have, I've missed it. Don't think they have yet, but I suspect they may. I suspect they probably will. Somewhere within the dungeons of the communications world, the wheels will be turning and the racks will be getting stretched and all that kind of stuff. And I know the media team will be on that type of stuff, as they always are. But Yeah, an absolute shambles. And, you know, we know we always love to watch our club, but do you want to watch it there? I couldn't possibly say to anybody they shouldn't.
I would
Willie,
be really.
yeah, on you go, Willie. Sorry.
No, I was just going to say I'd be really interested to see what the figures would be for watching that and people paying it if you could find that out somewhere along the lines. Because I reckon it'd be far less than would actually go into the stadium.
Yeah, your away support, I would imagine, be quite it will be a lot less as well. That's why I was saying about, you said it at a really subjective level. If you were to say, I think they would have gotten away with anything up to £12 or £13, right?
Yeah, aye, yep.
You know, you take the division numbers there. I'm not going to do the calculation out, right? But you could say, let's say it's 5,000, you would get it 13 quid or whatever, versus you're going to get 3,000 at 17.50. Now, those numbers don't stack up. We've made more progress there. But what they've done is they went in with a headline number and they've said, take it or leave it, because they know Rangers fans like to watch their team and follow it in bigger numbers than anybody else in the country. So it's an aggressively clear and transparent grab for Rangers fans' money.
Absolutely.
That's what's galling. That's what's frustrating about it. And that's why, as you were saying, Scott, I know that the Rangers media team will be looking at it. When I say dungeon, etc., I like that analogy. But they'll be looking at it, and I'm sure they will be in talks with St Johnstone as well. The question is, if St Johnstone are televising it, why can't RTV do some of their own coverage and then share the pot of money?
Indeed.
Thought process.
I'm going to stick with you, Tommy, just for a wee prediction for the tie at Perth on Wednesday, if you don't mind.
5-0 Rangers.
Wow.
Yeah.
Genuinely, do you think we'll get up there and cuff them 5-0?
I actually think we will. I genuinely do, as a matter of fact, actually. And I say that for a lot of reasons. So it's not just reactionary, right? Although I do hope that Steven Gerrard leaves £17.50 sitting on the manager's when he's exiting the building. But I think St Johnstone aren't as defensive minded as some people maybe still remember from
Tommy Wright.
Tommy Wright, thank you so much. Always frustrating that we shared a first name, and but not as frustrating as Tommy McIntyre at Celtic.
Exactly.
It's like a constant sense of frustration to me. But yeah, so they're actually slightly more expansive, and I think they will try and rough Rangers up at the back. They will try and play out. It won't be like the Motherwell game. And I think Rangers, by and large, have got over the hump of the St Mirren game. There'll be a lot of confidence coming out the back of that Motherwell game. I think we'll go for them. I do actually think that we will get a performance on the road that will be. I'm going to stick with it. 5-0. Merry Christmas. Oh.
Willie, give me a scorecast for Perth.
I'm not quite in the 5-0 camp. I think it'll be a lot tighter, to be honest. I remember the game at Ibrox. I'm pretty sure that game was pretty tight. I might be wrong. Maybe we're off from that. But I think they came and they played quite good football as well, as Tommy was saying. I don't think they were as defensive as they were under Tommy Wright. So I'm expecting probably more of the same this time round. I think it'll be a lot closer. I think it'll be 2-1.
Well, I'll quickly take on the hosting duties then, just to say to William, you're absolutely spot on. They did play really good football at Ibrox. Now you've reminded me of that. I'm quickly thinking that I really mean 5-0. It's too late. It's locked into the machine. So yeah, we'll come back to that. So Scott, I turn to your good self then as host. What's your prediction and why?
I think we'll go up there and I think we'll win 2-0. And I think Morelos will start.
Okay.
Say again, sorry?
Will he score?
I don't think he will score. But I expect him to start because I think that Gerrard likes this new dimension that he's added to his game, dropping back and giving the centre halves a decision to make whether to follow him, and then they automatically leave space in for guys like Roof and hopefully Kent. I think we'll go up there and win. I do. I think we'll get another 3 points. I'm actually, without looking too far ahead, I'm reasonably confident with the landscape in December up to the game at Ibrox in January. I really am. And here's hoping I'm not a million miles away.
One game at a time for me. One game
Indeed.
at a time.
I did say that. I did say that.
Yeah, I open one door to the advent calendar at a time. So that's how that's working for me. And I used up all my Christmas jokes, by the way, in this podcast.
Listen, before I let you guys go for the pod for another week, I would just want to promote a couple of things that we've got on our social media channels just now. Jamie Curry has been good enough to do us an analysis from the Motherwell game at the weekend. It's available at thisisibrox.co.uk, and you can get to it via all the obvious places on social media. In addition to that, good friend of mine, Richard Keir, has pulled together an article on Rangers' very, very, very first championship win in 1896, Thomas.
Yeah, there we go.
It's a great read. It's amazing as to how football has changed and the manner it's changed. I encourage you all to jump on the same places and have a look. And lastly, in addition to that, our fantastic writer Ross Kelvington is pulling together a wonderful piece that ties in very nicely with the anniversary of the Ibrox disaster at the beginning of January, and we should have that available across all of our networks and social media places reasonably shortly. I encourage you to have a look at that and really educate yourself over what happened that very, very sad day all those years ago. Gentlemen, as I say, getting ready to let you go. Plans for Christmas as it arrives, Thomas?
My immediate plan is to say 1890-91 season, actually, for that Dumbarton title.
I thought I was a bit late, to be honest. I did think I was late. And you
I agreed with you to begin with, mate. I agreed with you to begin with. So that's my Christmas saved. I've managed to dig that one out of my brain. But yeah, listen, same as everybody else, I'm sure it's the same for all the listeners out there enjoying a bit of a red, white and blue Christmas. It's nice to be sitting on top of the table, looking out the way. I'll certainly be having a few drinks, relaxing in my Christmas pyjamas.
Nice.
And I'm wishing everybody of the Rangers family persuasion the very best of the Noel season.
Indeed. Willie, same to you. Looking forward to, I know you're in a similar boat to me myself. You've got a couple of rugrats running around at your feet that are particularly hyper at this time of year, so you'll be looking forward to the end of the week, or certainly when they go to their bed on Friday.
Absolutely, yeah. I can't wait, and I think I'll be the biggest kid in the house in 25th, so sure.
So listen, I'll let you guys go now. Very best of luck to Rangers this week, and from everyone at this Ibrox, we'd like to take the opportunity to wish all our listeners and viewers a very Merry Christmas, and we look forward to the remainder of December with a bit of gusto. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.
Fire's raging.